I'm Paul McAdam, and with me is the Minister of Public Infrastructure, the Honourable David Patterson. We'll take a look at some of the achievements of the coalition government in this sector over the last 4 years and do a wrap-up of what has happened in 2019. This is One-on-One. Welcome to the program. Thanks for joining me, Minister.
Thank you very much, Paul. First things first, allow me to take the opportunity to say Merry Christmas to all your viewers. And if I don't get a chance to visit you within your households, Happy New Year as well.
Thank you. Now, as 2019 comes to a close, what we say are the major accomplishments for the ministry this year, particularly? And we could look back a bit further.
Well, I mean, this year we've accomplished quite a lot. This year I've just was in Escobar this weekend. I commissioned the Anna Regina power station, 5.4 megawatts. I mean, prior to 2019, they were suffering a tremendous amount of power outages because of the unreliable sets. So they now have, really stable electricity in Anna Regina. On the 20th, I'll be commissioning a brand new set in Bartica as well. So, and they also had tremendous problems before. We've launched this year. I've completed a set of roads, which we promised several communities. I'm quite pleased to say they're all completed, and we're actually out on a second round of roads. To communities, we've installed a lot of solar for 80 government buildings. We've installed solars. We're about to install a solar farm in Bartica-Mahdia. That is it. Bartica-Mahdia is in Region 5. We're just waiting on the batteries to come in to commission that system. We've done a lot of work in Oriala. One of the major things that I'm quite pleased of is that we actually started the work linking Kokwani to Oriala. Kokwani in Region 6, Region 10, going down all the way down to on the Berbice River, going down to Oriala on Region 6. My team actually drove from Kokwani all the way to Oriala. It's an old trail, old blasted trail, but we started to work on it. So we started from Oriala, and we're gone to Siparuta, and then we're going to continue on next year. Another major issue which we started, Paul, you may remember, I think it's in 2017 or the end of 2017, we started bringing back what a lot of persons call the line. The line was a trail that is linked Bartica-Mahdia in the old days, and that went through Cassandra Crossing, then through the Delham Bridge, and then all the way to Mahdia. Right now, to get from Bartica-Mahdia, you have to go to Bartica-Mahdia Road, then go to Linden, the trail all the way to Mabura, and then back up to Mahdia. We have completed the line. So therefore, you can now drive within 3 hours from Mahdia all the way to Bartica.
Direct drive.
Direct drive. Of course, it is not without its challenges, because the Delham Bridge, we were able to cross the Cassandra Crossing, which is a deep gorge, and Cassandra Crossing, but we were able to bridge it, fill, and so vehicles can unimpeded cross Cassandra Crossing. Unfortunately, Delham Bridge, for the viewers, you will know, is the only suspension bridge in the country. It was built in the 1930s here in Guyana. And it's still standing. It's still a really spectacular bridge. However, it has a weight limit, which is 10 tons. Unfortunately, since we opened up the trail, obviously there are unscrupulous persons. We had reports of people carrying excavators and those things over it. So we've written to the police asking that they can help us monitor it. But obviously, and then I use the opportunity to beg citizens and miners in particular, commuters, not to put more than 10 tons on that bridge, because obviously if it collapses, it'll be a disastrous, because obviously I don't think that we have the technology now to replace that bridge now as we speak. We're going to try and strengthen it as the days go by. But right now it can take 10 tons, and obviously 10 tons would be like an unladen truck. You can go without your goods and your thing. You can go there. Cars, SUVs, ATVs, and those things like that. That's okay. So And this all been our focus all the while of linking the hinterland to the coast, you know what I mean? So obviously since 2016, when I unveiled the infrastructure development plan, these were some of the highlights that we wanted to do, and we're working every year towards that, so that, you know what I mean, that the level, the disparity between the hinterland and the coast can be reduced. Last month, at the end of last month, on the 23rd, I opened the road, the Bark Retreat Road in Lethem. Nice, quite there, and that was quite well received by the citizens of Lethem. Several of them didn't expect to have that road there in their lifetime, because it's a red road. It was a mining tongue, so it's there.
If I may, on that same issue, are there plans to expand the road network in Lethem using similar technology?
In my, what similar, of course. I mean, I have committed to all the new tongues that we are going to do at least 1.5 kilometers to 2 kilometers of new roads every year. Lethem, I'm told, has about 8 kilometers of road networks. So in 3 or 4 years, we would be, all of Lethem would be at that standard. Same will go to Mabaruma. You know, that we've done the road all the way to Mabaruma. The only challenge, as you would know publicly, is between the administrative center where there's the balata trees. So the roadway goes all the way up to the balata trees, and then it continues after they're finished. We as the ministry have made a proposal to the township of Mabaruma. What we'll do is split the road, do one section through the balata trees, the second section either the right or the left, so I mean, so that you don't have to destroy the trees, because we wanted it. Unfortunately, or what the residents of Mabaruma, for whatever reason, has requested that we cut the trees down and continue the road. While we're not in agreement with it, we asked them to do far more consultations, you know, I mean, a wider conversation, and actually do sign that the majority of the that the majority of the residents, because obviously this is not really the time to be cutting down trees, in our opinion. But in the end, it is the citizens of the township who will make a decision. Hopefully, we can do some or the other. You know, I mean, we can find a middle ground whereby we can keep the trees and still have the concrete road. So you have a concrete road all the way from the airstrip up to this section where the trees start, and then from where the trees end all the way into the waterfront. So therefore, that's the only section that remains uncompleted. We have a contract out for it, so therefore it's just a question of a decision. So it's not, and then we move ahead. But obviously we want them. We've done this. I mean, we opened Mahdia, the president opened Mahdia, the township, the roads in Mahdia, and we continuing again. So in Bartica, I was just told, I mean, there's a road in Bartica that's going all the way to the 4-mile settlement. That's done this year. I just approved, the engineer came to me and he asked to do some solar lighting on that. And I said I approved that about a week ago. So I reckon by Christmas, you know, I mean, the solar lights will be up. We installed 80 solar lights in various communities, in all the communities. Solar lights just last week. Last week, yes, it's actually on this weekend. There is a community behind the Chinese embassy. It is residents. I think they started out where the former President Burnham had his farm, and where his widow lived until she died. And that community worked, and the persons worked on the farm there, and then obviously they stayed there. It has expanded over the years, but obviously it's not been regularized, so there's a limit to which you can do as a government to unregularized areas. But the main access to it is on the northern side of the Chinese embassy, which is a continuation of the Botanical Gardens. And it's quite long. It goes all the way back to the Conservancy. And of course, they have no power. So the ministry just this weekend, it just completed, I think on Saturday or Sunday, we installed 16 solar lights along that stretch of road, so that they can have, I mean, it can be lit at night because it's quite dark. I mean, there's a lot of children there. We, in association with the Ministry of Public Telecommunication, we'll be installing 2 hubs there. My ministry will be building the buildings, and they've started that. And then obviously Minister Catherine Hughes will install the hotspots, so it will be hotspots. And it's just in keeping with, and that's just the little things. I mean, in keeping with our idea of getting every community, regularized or not, that they should have a good life. I mean, they're students there. I mean, the circumstances until we can get them rehoused in housing settlements and those things like that, we have to take every opportunity to ensure that the youths, the young ones, have every opportunity to participate.
And actually, I think in the last CSEC exams, a youth from behind there was in the top 10.
In the top
Did very well, yes.
So exactly. So therefore, obviously, once you give them the assistance, I do think that they can do well. You know what I mean? And I think it's our responsibility, not as a government, as a people, to help our youths.
Now, in terms of meeting your targets for this year, what do you say is the percentage rate of achievement?
Well, our last PSIP, which was on the 27th of November, for my ministry, procurement-wise, I think we were about 98% of all the projects that we said we wanted procured and out. For the locally funded projects, we are very, very high 90s. We have a bit of challenges with the foreign funded projects. And obviously we are constrained by the funders' regulations and obviously ours as well. And I can probably start at the Sheriff Mandela, which, is an IDB funded project. The contractor is Sino-Hydro, quite a large contractor from China. Unfortunately, his performance from the start was not what the ministry liked. We had the contract was signed in December 2017, I think. Yeah, December 2017. And by August of 2017, he had not mobilized. You normally get 3 months to mobilize it, so therefore, like 8 months after, he hadn't mobilized. And then when the contractor started mobilizing, we noticed he was using a lot of subcontractors. Nothing wrong, local subcontractors, nothing wrong with them. They're quite brilliant, but we were concerned about if a major contractor using so many subcontractors oversight the level and those things. So we would have written to the IDB in 2018 after expressing our concerns about the quality of the contractor, expressing to them that, listen to me, that we don't think this contractor has taken this job seriously, that we had recommended that since 2018 that we would let us cease the contract because they barely started the first work.
So the move came from your end?
Initially.
Okay.
And initially, right. So and the IDB, rightly or wrongly, said to us that their process is quite difficult to determine a contract and start again, and that we should increase our efforts on monitoring and mechanisms and try to get the contractor to comply. I was worried, and as I continue to be worried, that you would have a Christmas and you would have a period of time whereby the whole road becomes messy. It is a major thoroughfare. And during the course of this year, about a couple of months ago, we kept citing them for environmental issues and health and safety issues and traffic management issues. They were supposed to ensure that the drainage is kept functional, so that when the rains come, because they had to put in new drains, they have to ensure the traffic can signage at nights and those things like that. And unfortunately, that hasn't been done satisfactorily. So the IDB has said to us that they wouldn't disburse because they were concerned about particularly the safety and the environmental aspects in which we share. And so we said to the contractor, before we continue paying you, you have to fix these flaws. He's been trying. They've been trying. They've been trying. Obviously, but what they haven't reached this threshold as yet. So what the ministry has done is that we will make those corrections on behalf of the contractor and deduct it from his sums of money, so that the project can continue. It is safe and the work is compliant. But whatever money we input, we will recoup from the contractor. So we meet them next week and finalize that, and so that we can continue.
But this has pushed back the project somewhat.
Exactly, and it has pushed back. I mean, the project was delayed somewhat, but the paving of it will now be probably about second quarter, second quarter next 2020, when it was initially hoped to start early January next year. So it's now pushed it back about a month or so.
So this is from Sheriff and Rupert Craig right up Mandela.
Right up to Mandan, all the way to...
Sage.
No, it goes all the way to DSL, DSL
DSL
Junction,
corner,
DSL
Houston corner.
Houston Corner. And of course, it's traffic lights, it's mediums, there is pedestrian by North Rumville for sure, I can remember. We have a pedestrian overpass because there's 2 schools right there. And of course, if you make the road wider, it's quite difficult for persons to cross with wider roads. So that's it. The other funding issue that we had was the question of the East Coast East Bank bypass. I'm actually meeting with the consultants this afternoon at 3 p.m. So that initially the contract for $50 million was signed. That's the former administration. And their intention was simply a housing road, you know what I mean, like the normal road you get the access into Diamond or into Perseverance and those things like that. As a government, seeing what is happening right now on the East Bank corridor, anybody in East Bank would know that we realize that it's just a simple 2-lane housing road will not work. So we upgraded it into a dual highway, 4 lanes, high volume traffic, obviously, with all the safety features and those things like that. So obviously it's double the size of the project, and obviously what we wanted to do is integrate certain features in it. So it's built to the highest standards. So there were certain challenges, you know what I mean. It's going through virgin territory, which formerly was sugarcane land and swampy land and those things like that. So obviously we want to ensure that when we build it, no settlement and those things happen. The price has increased. The initial the response that the Indian consultants, because it was a loan from India, a grant from India, a loan, was $174 million. But we disagreed with that, because we've been building roads for.
That's a small sum.
Yeah. So we we have the indigenous materials there. Huh? So their design is quite elaborate. And we were saying, look, we simply would use our indigenous materials and sand fill and come up in the virgin soil, and that would save us about $30 to $40 million in the cost. So we meet them this afternoon, but because of that delay, we were unable to start. But we plan to start immediately after. We've started the clearing, so you can probably go up there right now and you can see that their team's working. I don't know where they start, but they're working actually clearing the route and making sure that it goes from the East Coast Highway, the same East Coast Highway, which is the junction by Corrida Park and turning off the highway, starts there and it ends at Diamond. There'll be connected roads to Aubrey Barker, to Higgs Bush Road, to Houston, to Agricola, not Agricola, sorry, Mucka Road, and then finally to Diamond. So 5 connecting roads it will be done. And obviously, as the country expands, we can add further connections. We can go more to the east coast and those things like that. So that's in it. So that was a bit delayed, and so therefore we couldn't. That's why we're not at the disbursement level that we wanted to be.
Now, let's talk about sea defense. I know you've been saying that we need a lot more money to really do what we need to do in terms of sea defense for Guyana. What are some of the gains in this area you've done so far? I know we still have some challenges.
Well, I mean, Paul, I'm really, really glad that you mentioned sea defenses, because it made the news. A lot of persons were surprised because at a TAIN talk with the University of Guyana, I reported to them publicly what I would have told Cabinet the day or a couple of days before. And that is that we have 473 kilometers of sea defense countrywide. I'm talking about region 6, 5, 4, 2, and a little bit of 1. But that's the coast that faces the river, the Atlantic side of it. And then, of course, there's some on the river inside as well. Of that 473 kilometers, and it's divided into, all different districts, they have it. 34.9 kilometers needs urgent repairs within the next 2 years. I reported that, and of course, I mean, some person, I think mostly the opposition, started crying out that it's a lack of a maintenance program, it's poor work and those things like that. And they didn't even actually understand what is the challenge. We have a lot of areas that doesn't have physical sea defense, and particularly area like Danzig, in the Myconi area that we're now doing the emergency works on. That's particularly that's an example of it. All the years there was no need for sea defense because you had mangroves, you had natural barriers. We are in the period of climate change, so that obviously every time it is a proven fact that sea levels has risen. So therefore, obviously, with the rising sea level, the spring tide events are more violent, more severe. So obviously, it does more damage every time. So therefore, what has happened, as in Myconi, is that it has destroyed our natural barriers, and so we now need to, after all our years of existence, put in physical barriers in these areas. So it's not a question of us not being not having a good maintenance program. It's not a question of us of any area failing or any existing work failing. It's a question of us trying to keep back nature and climate change. You know what I mean? And it's a global issue. You know what I mean? And we're just like a tiny dot in the fight against climate change, but we are on the forefront of its effects, and we're fighting it. So there are other areas. I mean, not that there are areas. I mean, Leghorn and those areas. I mean, every time they have a lot of natural sea defenses, Wakenham, but they're losing the mangroves as the tide comes in. And then when you get to East Bank Berbice, from you're talking about from the Strand, you're going all the way down to Mara. Those areas there, that area previously had really nice earthen embankments and those things like that. We're losing those as well, so we obviously have to do some intervention. So it came up, our initial assessment came up to $14 billion needed. And I just highlighted that to Cabinet so that they could be aware of the challenges that we have and the resources. Well, yes. So it can go up. I mean, but obviously it would mean long. There's a 6-month immediate and a short-term and a long-term area. So I also mentioned at that cabinet meeting that we have to now start to do some benefits and cost benefits analysis of certain these things. Just 35 kilometers of the 473 kilometers is costing us $14 billion. At some point, we'd have to do a lot more the next year. We have to start thinking about relocation of some vulnerable services to higher ground. We're not talking about abandoning anywhere or something like that, but in the future we have to relocate some. I mean, if we're going to build a brand new hospital, for example, let us move it in an area that is less susceptible to these issues, so that whatever happens, should there ever be a natural disaster, that particular key institution can function. And we could think of other institutions that are just as important, but as the oil resources come, these are the discussions that we should have. I know everyone likes to be in Georgetown. That's where everything is happening. But do we need to be here? And you know what I mean. So don't let anybody think that we starting a process of relocating Georgetown. It's just we've been practical.
All right. We looked at sea defense. Now to the gorilla in the room, GPL. What could you say about GPL, the performance so far, overall?
Well, GPL, but what I can say, they're trying. They are trying. Just last week, Friday, I met with them. I had a meeting. I met with them from 6-hour meeting with GPL, 5 or 6 hour meeting. I started at 10, and then I finished at about 4. And I sent some prepared questions to them that I needed to have responded to, so that I could report back to cabinet. And the very first question is, how prepared are you for Christmas? Very first question. And they have said to me that, and I give you as they explained to me, the demand on GPL power has risen 6% since for this year, right. So therefore, our peak demand, and of course this is cumulative coming from 2015 onwards since I took over the sector. So peak demand is now 124.6 megawatts. That's in the Demerara interconnected grid, Demerara Bartica interconnected grid. So when when the government changed, when I first got involved with GPL, our peak demand was something like 115. So so therefore it's almost like 9 megawatts, and that is natural because of the growth rate that you have in the economy. Everyone is here. As you know, there's a construction boom. You can know there's onshore, or the oil and gas industry, particularly for the oil and gas industry, more persons doing that. We have a lot more offices and commercial buildings opening up. So the peak demand is now at 124. We have not the overall demand, the overall generation power is at 142. So we have about like 17 megawatts capacity reserve. That is not ideal. The ideal number is 20% of your peak demand is the minimum you want. That there is barely giving you about like 10%, the 12, right? The 10% of our things. And what compounds it is that if you have such a low reserve, what compounds it is if any of the generators have to be done for servicing.
Trips or anyway.
Right, yeah. So, but if I take a 10 megawatt generator out for services, my capacity now drops from 142 to 132, but my demand is still 124. I mean, so therefore, so we went through that. They've said to me, one, as of December the 8th, there will be no more scheduled maintenance and line maintenance. You know, so we do maintenance. So yesterday was the last day that they have completed all the maintenance for engines for the year. But there's no more maintenance scheduling for generators for the year. So therefore, obviously, it's that they will have the full 140 to 142 megawatts available for the Christmas period, which is a good sign. So obviously, barring any unforeseen issue with the transmission line, I mean, we should be very, very okay for Christmas. There's no scheduled maintenance. There's nothing on. That yesterday's event was the last, so we'll be good. My second question in the on the list of things, I can remember them because is what are our plans for 2020 to 2022 generation wise? I mean, obviously, because I just explained how you need to have more power generation in it immediately to therefore increase your reserves and give you more. And they presented to me a scenario or a plan of action to get 28 megawatts in immediately, by mid next year, and obviously financing available then, and 19 to 28 will be arriving by July, August, if funding is, and then another 19 by the end of the year, which will carry us up to 47 megawatts, which would be ideal, allow you to do whatever you want. I took that was Wednesday, I took their plans to the Minister of Finance immediately, because I had signaled to him that I'll be coming, because obviously money is always the issue. He gave me some recommendations, and I'm going to go to cabinet with it. He's not here tomorrow, and he wants to be he wants to be at the cabinet meeting when the government makes the decision on it. So hopefully, I mean, we've charted out all the funding and those things. So hopefully, that we can have a decision next Tuesday, and with that decision, next Tuesday. It provides a route for 2020. And so we have a immediate, a short, a medium term, and of course a long term plan. The short term, short to medium term, obviously would be power replacing the entire grid with natural gas, and then obviously doing the off grid areas with renewable energies. I mean, short to medium term. So I'll work on that. But I'm looking immediately next week to come to cabinet and put out my plans, GPL plans, and get their feedback. If the financing route, which myself and the Minister of Finance discuss, if that's approved, we will announce it and we'll move speedily forward. My third question on that list was fuel supply. I asked them because, as you know, I think about 2 months ago,
We had an issue with fuel.
timeliness is fuel. So I wanted to ensure that they have. The issue is that, and it's quite interesting how a lot of things are linked. The IMO, which is the International Maritime Organization, some time ago has passed a law, regulation, whatever it is for all its signatories, that in an effort to combat, when I say things are linked, to combat climate change, they have passed a regulation that that the freight vessels should only use heavy fuel oil with no more than 0.5% sulfur content in them. Obviously, so it's cleaner when you burn and those things like that. And that comes in effect from January 1, 2020. Everyone knew this was happening, but so what has happened internationally, and everyone obviously will comply because, I mean, Guyana is a signatory to the IMO. It's just like the Paris Club Agreement and the Kyoto Agreement. I mean, so all the shippers that are registered in every country will comply from January 1. So what has happened? It became a demand for low sulfur HFO has skyrocketed. Statsoli, which is the company which had the contract with GPL they've been supplying GPL for the last I would say 8 years. They previously their best market would have been GPL, but of course now they naturally have a very low sulfur HFO. So automatically, so very little refinement. They don't have to do anything because that's how their production produces that. But previous to January 1, it had no added value. Now, right? So obviously they're getting they were selling us. They're getting I think $10 US dollars a barrel more for the oil than what the existing contract with GPL has. So 3 months ago, according to the contract, they signaled that they're bringing their contract to terminate their contract with us. Fuel will still be available from them, but obviously at a higher price, right? So obviously their last shipment to Guyana under this existing, it will be on December the 27th. So that is the reason why, and obviously, and what happened about 2 months ago, why there was this delay, that they're making the transition to sell to other customers. So that's been done. What I've said to GPL and what GPL is doing is they're sourcing HFO from Trinidad, Jamaica, and then they I think one of Curacao or Aruba. And we've approved. There's a tender which closes on the 16th, international tender which closes on the 16th. But I've been assured that while that we will have enough fuels. We won't run out of fuel, but the systems have been in place. We had to pay a little bit more for fuel from other places because of the same issue, but we're good. So that was the fuel issue. I mean, I had other questions that I put to GPL, which is including what was it? The human resources issues, their line maintenance, their procurement. I wanted to ensure that they have procured all the equipment. I spoke to them on meters, smart meters and prepaid meters there, and finding out what is it, because people keep saying to me that they don't have prepaid meters. They have a large quantity of postpaid meters. Most persons will like prepaid meters. They recently received a quantity of prepaid meters now, and obviously, and they are going, and they're available. However, what persons should know about a prepaid meter is that the GPL will install first priority is persons that has no meters at all. Right, so the new applicants, persons is now building the house, is now moving in. And then when that is finished, they will change people from who have an existing postpaid meter to prepaid meter. So and obviously the idea is that get more persons on the grid so they can get power. So persons that want to transition from postpaid to prepaid, you are not the first priority. The first priority is the first time.
Who don't have service.
Who don't have service. That's the first time. So so overall, we have there's the power, the PBUUP, which is funded by the IDB in the EU. That is that 2 lots are almost finished. We have the 3rd lot will be awarded shortly, and that will obviously look at another 380 kilometers of new line maintenance. It'll have new meters, new poles. Then we've also have some loans from the ISDB, which we're going to build some new substations in Sophia in particular, which is our main hub, I think, over the river, and as well as Garden of Eden. So they have we short-term wise, we do have a plan, and we adequately finance. However, there is always a however with GPL. The system is aged. The system lacks redundancy, and the lack of redundancy is an inherited issue. The submarine cable is an example, you know what I mean, right? Yes. Yeah, the submarine cable, you have a submarine cable there. In any other place, you'd have one submarine cable coming from Vredenhoop and another one somewhere else. And I mean, just in case of any accidents or something like that. The previous philosophy at GPL was just a one-shot, one straight line, one connectivity. We're changing that, but that takes a lot of money, so we have to do it slowly and incrementally, and we don't want to disturb the surface. So the submarine cable is back up. We've installed we installed another one across Princess Street, and we installed an additional one at Hope. Should this cable be damaged again, or hopefully, I mean, but this redundancy, so we're hoping that never happens again. But should it be damaged again, it brings over normally 14 megawatts from Vredenhoop. We have put in redundancy, so from Princess Street, as well as Good Hope, we will be able to at least get 10 to 12 megawatts coming in. So therefore, we only be short 2 megawatts. And we'll continue improving the system. So therefore, that should one of these cables go down, it shouldn't affect the system. And that is how grids are built these days. Unfortunately, it wasn't built like that. There's one distribution line between Kingston and Sophia, which it goes along the earthen embankment. You can remember years ago.
Should have 2.
Yeah, you should have it some other way, just in case. So therefore, so you should have. Ideally for us, our major generating sets are at Kingston, Vredenhoop, and Garden of Eden. So ideally, what we should have is a loop, say a connection from Vredenhoop to Garden of Eden to Sophia substation, Sophia to Kingston, and then Kingston to Vredenhoop. So it's like a circle. So therefore, should one of those links be broken, you can just right, because the electricity is bi-directional. I can turn it, and I could channel it from one direction to the other. So therefore, so example, if the link between Vredenhoop and Garden of Eden fails, I don't send the power from Vredenhoop to Kingston to Sophia, and then from Garden of Eden to Sophia. So you don't lose that, but you don't lose any power should there be failure. Right now, if like the submarine cable, when that fail, or if there's a problem, a trip in the line between Kingston and Sophia, that's it. There's no way or other way. So you have generating sets that are generating, but you can't get
You can't move the power.
can't move the power. So that's what we're working we're working on now. You know what I mean? So it's a slow process because it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of miles of kilometers. But we've started with additional cables across to from Freedom Hoop, and then we're doing right now we're doing the additional work from Garden Eden onwards. So while I know everybody keeps hearing this, but we are making slow progress, slow or not, but we're making progress.
Quickly, with regards to the submarine cable, was the ship responsible, fined? Did they help to pay?
The question is no, right? Because obviously, really and truly, what has happened is the volume of traffic in that particular section.
pinpoint which
You couldn't
vessel it was.
control vessel. I mean, because at any one time you have 2-3 vessels going, and then obviously what happens is that a vessel when the cable was cut, I mean, you have to now trace back where you lost the power from. And then because of course you don't know who's in the area, because it's right. It's an area of almost 2.5 kilometers. Huh? So therefore there were like several ships would across, and you don't know exactly where the breakage was. So unfortunately, and then of course you can't charge all of them. That's how it is. I mean, it remains, and I keep saying so. You know what I mean? And it remains a very poor engineering decision to put a submarine cable of that importance
Across a busy channel.
across the busiest channel in the country. It remains a poor engineering decision. And unfortunately, it is a costly decision. That cable initially cost about $6 million because it just doesn't carry power. It carries data and communication networks for the
You have the protective coating around it.
yes, and they're quite big. As you can see, it's a massive big ticks, and it's about. And it was a poor decision, poor decision, and obviously we're suffering it, and obviously GPL gets the blame, right? The ministry gets the blame whenever there's a damage, but no one gets up and says who was the bright spark that woke up one morning and said, hey, let's just draw a line on the river and say let's lay a cable here, you know. But we're working on it. We're working on it.
All right, we're almost at the close. What can we look forward to in 2020
Well.
from your ministry?
Well, I mean, let me start. Let's say let me start at we have the top, the Latham Airport. You know, I mean, there is a right now I'm doing some repaving at the Latham Aerodrome, but I also have a contract out for the feasibility and design of a new international Latham Airport. To the standards of, or even higher, because I think our runway is just as long or a little longer than Eugene Correa, similar sort of size. And obviously what we want to do is so that we can take traffic from the South America, in particular Brazil, and now South American countries can land there, and vice versa. And it's not only for passengers. The exciting thing is cargo. You can you can use it as a cargo hub. You can feed the entire. You can feed the entire South America. You know what I mean? It's 4 hours from North America to Latham. You know what I mean? You can have a hub there, and now you can go and shuttle things all around. So the opportunities are there. So that's there. The Linden Latham Road, as you know for sure, that will be started. That's just waiting on the contractors to the procurement process. So I'm just coming down the line, obviously. And then the bridge over the Kubukari, that will obviously start. I mean, that's what's been eagerly looked forward to. I was just told last week or week before last, Aircram has approved it because obviously we're going through a
protected area.
Protected area. The Aircram board has approved the landing of a bridge into their protected area. So there's no impediments now stopping us. We had wild consultation with all the indigenous people around all the communities. They're being affected. I'm talking about all the way from Anai all the way to Georgetown and whatever community you pass, and the mining communities. So there's nothing stopping the road. coming down onwards Wismar Bridge, as you know, it's all the consultations now, because right now we cross on the old train bridge. The designs so that are being done right now, so that we expand that bridge. The designs for the and I was accused at last budget presentation of doing so many reports, but we knew, and everyone know that you will be having a lot more funds coming in, and you have to plan. That's it. Plan, so you could execute the funds correctly. It wasn't the previous administration forte. They just got the money, executed a project without any planning. We can see the results of those poor planning. But my ministry decided to do it the correct way. So obviously we're going to finish with the Linden, of course, the Linden letter, and we have money from the World Bank already been transferred to that. The consultants have given the reports, and they've done all the assessments of where we are. So we're going to go out into lots early next year, as soon as the budget is passed next year, and that will of course be lit as well. So therefore, so we can obviously road safety and so that is being done. As you come down, you further down, we're talking about the East Coast, East Bank bypass, the side we just described. There's a new bridge crossing the Demerara River. I'm just coming down sequentially, you know what I mean? So the new bridge crossing the Demerara River, you know, if you go all the way up to Perica, you know that we're doing the final designs for the new Perica. Stelling is being done. Or it's done. I actually saw it yesterday. Coincidentally, the initial, the draft final report, or the draft designs, final designs, quite impressive. I mean, it is funding is already being secured for that. You know, I mean, so you get there. I mean, along the rivers. I mean, the Waterfront Development, which is Perica, Stabrook, Freedom Hoop. That's being done at the moment. As you know, the consultations, we bringing back Stabrook Wharf, Market Wharf, and the Freedom Hoop, we're making that all into commercial space all the way around. The Waterfront Development, that's my pet project, and that's the one soon as that's completed, I can say I can hang up my hat and say we've done that. Is the seawalls. I'll unveil the plans for that, but it's a marvelous project. You know, I mean, it's just all the way from Marriott. Yeah, it's the boardwalk and the kiosks, the commercial areas, all the way from there, all the way up to, well, the initial phase one will be up to Ogle, up to the roundabout, the pump station, from Marriott to the pump station. Then I'm going to move from there to Ogle phase 2. That will have, obviously, there'll be a boardwalk like we have in other countries, you know, like Boston in front. There'll be exercise tracks that are dedicated, so therefore you don't have to run on the seawall and ride in the seawall anymore. Anybody running that, there'll be the road will be widened. There'll be kiosks and commercial areas and those things. Everything standardized. Yeah. No. So yes. So obviously, when that starts, we'll have to relocate. Obviously, and there'll be a mechanism. We work with the city council to come get a mechanism how you award the kiosks and those things like that. But obviously, it will be fitting, because that's the most popular social area in the country. Yes. On a Sunday, right? So we will transform that entire section there, obviously, into what it is that you would have. So, and obviously, and if you do it and make it very secure and friendly, so hopefully they'll be popular other days other than Sunday, as well as a commercial venture. The East Coast Road, that's scheduled to finish the first phase. That's scheduled to save next up the bridges. And they're working to try and get it, but that's scheduled to finish at the end of this month. I think the paving and those things will be completed. Hopefully all the bridges has been completed. There was a saving in the contract. And I have extended, and we've applied to extend the loan. I think that will come through, because we met the Chinese Exim Bank. So it moves from Belfield now. And the savings I thought was carries to Hope, but Hope Bridge carries us all the way to the Mahaica turn. So what I'm doing is that Lawrence Finance has signed the extension on the existing loan. We will widen the road all the way from Belfield, where it stops currently, all the way to the Mahaica Junction. You know what I mean, just by that. And then we put a big roundabout there, so you can go the old road or the new road. We've applied, the Kuwait Development Fund has given us $1.8 million to do the studies to upgrade from Mahika double lane to Rosignol. So that will be launched soon. With that's going that way. Obviously, there is the discussions. The Surinamese are after us. I've been trying and been keeping us for the bridge across the Quarantine River. Paul, I would say one of the other things that I want to mention, and that is another one of my the things that I am gonna want to have done, and then I could hang off my gloves. A couple of things I want to have done before I run into retirement. I mean, hopefully I can get it done in the first year or two, so that have early retirement. Public transportation. We have done all the sustainable transportation studies. It's time that we bring back in public transportation, which is big buses, and as well as designated routes, scheduled time. Subsidized travel for the elderly.
Using the bus stops?
Yes. So the elderly and school children. So obviously, when we bring them back, the elderly and the school children can transit. Just like it's done in other countries. I think it used to be done in the past. You used to get a little bus ticket.
Or you pay as you go on.
Pay as you go on, but obviously, if the airfare is the bus fare is cheap enough, I would like to hope that we can actually the Minister of Finance and we have to look at the numbers. But our initial projection is that elderly, the pensioners 65 and over, that they can travel free, as well as school children in uniform. But that is one of the issues, one of the things that I want to have up and running. It's starting 2020 and onwards. It's much needed. We have to reclaim our roads public transportation, safety, right, timeliness, and those things like that. Quality of life. So that's another issue. I haven't even gone into the renewable energy section as yet. There are tenders out right now for solar farms in Bartica, Mahdia, I think Letem, and four places that I know that they're tenders out, and they should be coming back in, I think, next week or week after next.
Is there any way you can talk to the banks to maybe have them on board, offer a soft loan to somebody who wants to go solar or partially solar, solar power their house or business?
So that is something that we can do. But in the interim, GPL and Council Racing they're starting the preparations for that. So therefore, feed-in tariffs, so that's what it's called. Feed-in tariffs is a tariff or the amount of money that you pay consumers, or the credits you give consumers that they will get if they supply the grid, right? So what we've started discussions, and then we have to speak to the Public Utilities Commission. So the idea is what we're currently working on is that persons with solar farms and solar on top of their rooftops and those things like that, they would have a bi-directional meter. So they're during the course of the day,
if excess, you can feed back
they feed back into the grid, but we initially wouldn't be paying them. We would be credited in your bill. So if you give us $10 worth of electricity, and at nights when your solar farm may not be functioning as well, that you use $12 electricity, we only bill you for $2. So obviously, and that is one of the ways we want to make it more cost efficient for persons. So when the banks and other things lend you can repay easier because your operational costs are less. Or you can go 100%. You can still go 100% renewable if you like. So we have a really diverse and exciting portfolio. The very good thing about the ministry, and very good thing the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, planning. A lot of persons will say, "Oh, you plan too much." So, but we've spent a lot of time interrogating, investigating. The things that you need, all our weaknesses. We've been addressing them and incrementally moving up. Not next year, but right now, if you go to, and I'd probably encourage you to go in there and see, to the Garden of Eden, there is being erected right now a new asphalt plant, which we bought since 2018. Because we recognize that we have to do more roads. We recognize there's a limitation in costs and in quality. So we have right now that's being erected, as I speak, in Garden of Eden, the most modern asphalt plant in the Caribbean. Planning, we plan for that. So obviously it will be capable of 160 tons per hour. Our existing plant that we do in all the road works only gives us 35 tons an hour. So there is almost 3 times, 4 times the volume and the quality and everything. It's past all the EPA standards. So when that is now up and running, which should be sometime in January, hopefully, after commissioning and those things like that, the pace of our road works as a ministry step up. And obviously we cheaper, more affordable, planning. We've been planning, we've been studying all our weaknesses, you know what I mean? We anticipate, Paul, with the construction coming on, that there'll be a pressure on stone, granite. Identified that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We've done studies and we've done commissioned the idea of government going back into quarries or partnering with a public-private, so that just to meet the government needs. This is not because we will be using stone for roads and for the housing development and those things. The private sector will be using stones for their industry as well. So we have wanted to guarantee our supply. So we have done a study. We have identified partners who we'll work with and those things. Have MOU said guarantees the government supply of stone, you know what I mean? And also we don't have to import. And this will ensure that everyone, private sector as well as the public sector, survive. Satisfied.
One PPP.
Yeah, one PPP. Yeah, exactly. And we've done this, and these are identified as weaknesses since 2016, 2017. So the platform, the groundwork has been set. So you know what I mean. We just waiting until from the 3rd of March, we just flip the switch because or the next 2020 budget, we just flick the switch and say, let there be lights, and we realize.
All right, let's close. Well, you mentioned it earlier, but final words. It's a holiday season.
Well, first thing first, Paul, don't drink and drive. November was not a particularly good month for road safety, even though it was Road Safety Month and Road Safety Week. It has not been. So don't drink and drive the festive season. Don't speed. There's nowhere that you want to go that means that you have to go that urgently. If you are, what you do is allow yourself enough time to get there at the correct speed and speed limits. That is for on the roadways. I say to my fellow male persons, you know what I mean, don't drink and become aggressive. To your colleagues, particularly to your partners, you know what I mean, the domestic abuse, I hope that you know that it's your responsibility and your duty not to become violent to anyone, in particular the women's folks. I would like to say that to the public servants, you know what I mean, I know that the 15th, everybody remind me, 15th is the day that the money is there. Spend wisely. They can do that, spend wisely. If they are so inclined, they can invite me for a drink or two, you know what I mean, I don't mind. But I will have a designated driver, so that's okay. And then have a lovely new year, because I think 2020 is the year, the beginning of the decade of development, as His Excellency would have mentioned. We're eagerly looking forward to it. So obviously we would like the entire country to have a good season, and then obviously look forward to that.
Okay, I'm Paul McAdam. You are watching One on One. With me was the Minister of Public Infrastructure, the Honorable David Patterson. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, Paul.
All right.